Morning. My name is Mike, and I'm one of those people that lives in a van. It didn't even start, did it? It was kind of going. And mornings are always freezing in vans. Comes with the territory. I hate being cold more than I hate being cold. And by cold, I mean 60 degrees. It's New Mexico, high desert. So it doesn't ever really get cold. I'm just a crybaby. I'm a photographer, and this is a channel about the next 20 years. I have had a Forrest Gumpy sort of life, and I think I'm going to wrap things up in the strangest way possible. I'm going to step way outside of my comfort zone. And why not? Why wouldn't you? How many times do you live? You're going to get a second chance at it? Not likely. Not likely. Oh, and I live in a bus. I'm one of those van life people. And if you're new to van life, if you're new to that term, there was a movie, Nomadland, that was not too long ago. Van life is a colloquial term for what we do. We're nomads. Nomad and van life are kind of interchangeable in that there are subsects. School buses, transit vans, what are those, Sprinter vans, those old conversion vans from the 90s, any type of panel van, the old Chevy C vans, the Dodge vans, those old fishing overlanders are considered part of this. It's a pretty big community, and essentially the community is people who are sick of it. If you're sick of it, this is the way to go. You have to learn how to build a fire. You have to learn how to install your own heat. You have to learn how to manage your own life. And that's something that in my comfort zone, I was never taught to do and didn't know how to do. Had no clue how to do. Grew up in Jersey, New York. My mom bounced around a lot. We chased her demons around this country at least 3 times. So I got the travel bug early in life. I just didn't know that I had the travel bug. But now, even with all that, I could add one more thing to my resume. Diesel mechanic. And here is a reality of a van life. In the front of your truck, whatever you decide, is anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 repair bill that's always there, and you're always concerned about it, just like if you had a car. And right now, my motor is not starting. I got code. It's a diesel. So I'm very unfamiliar with the world of diesel. In the last couple of weeks, YouTube has brought me up to speed, and in particular with the code. The computer, it has a computer. The computer code 323. There's a bunch of them. 323, 626, 134. It's 5 codes altogether. A lot of them seem incidental, like 3 of them seem incidental. 2 of them are kind of worrisome. I worked at a parts store briefly for about a year, and it was my first contact, honestly, with diesel. And those guys that came in were panicked when it didn't work. They were unhappy, and I think most of it was they were going to spend a ton of money. And it sounds kind of scary, especially if you're thinking about it. For me, it was too. It's literally the only reason I didn't go with a school bus in the beginning, because I was scared of diesel. But had I started with school bus 3 years ago, a lot of this would be old hack, and I'd probably know which screw to turn to get everything back in order. But these diesel guys, back to O'Reilly Auto Parts, these diesel guys would come in and they would be unhappy when those diesels would come in. And they would come in. I've been racing cars for a long time, motorcycles, cars, and I did a little wrenching as much as it was necessary. I'm not a car guy. I'm a track guy. So I know how to drive fast, but I don't know how to make it go fast. Not all the time. And back to these guys, and they would come in and they would be rattling off words that I had no idea. The only word I knew that made sense was they would keep like we get they're stereotypes, unfortunately. And we would get the guy that would come in and say, yeah, it's the big one. Yeah, it's the big one. And he'd say it like 9 times. And I'd finally say, I got it. I got it. You spent the most money out of everybody. And I tried to be nice about it. But after the 9th or 10th, it's the big one. You didn't buy the truck because you needed a place to live. You didn't buy the truck because you needed a tow truck. You didn't buy the truck because it was a necessity on your farm. And you see all these separations when you work in the parts industry. And it was really eye-opening to see it. I learned quite a bit about diesel there. But for these guys who just buy it for the sake of for bragging rights, I don't know. More power to you, but thank you for the education. And I know plenty of people with diesels, and people with fifth wheels, people with farms, people with heavy equipment, people who have to drive long distances with horses and cows. I met all of them at the parts store. I work in a rural area of America, desert Southwest, high desert Southwest, 4,000 feet elevation. And I met a lot of good people with big giant motors. And when they weren't working, they weren't happy. And I kind of see it. But at the same token, they also had, a $200,000, $500,000 home, 10 cars to maintain, kids in college, things like that. And when you remove all of that, then it's scary, but it's also reasonable. I mean, worst case scenario, one day I know if I'm keeping this bus for 20 years, I know I'm going to have to put a motor in this thing. For now, it's just that I think there was not enough oil, or the oil was too thick. It's very cold for diesels, apparently. They don't like being cold. So that is a learning curve. And I want to take some pictures. But that's kind of the beginning of it. And that's where this is. That's what this is about. This is the beginning of van life for me. I had 3 RVs before this in the last 4 years, but I always knew that I would end up in a school bus, and I always knew that I would end up with the days like this. It happened with the other RV. It happened with the travel trailer. It happened with all of them. It is part of the deal. If there's an equation to it, is there a way to equate it to normal life? It's as if you own a home and you have to put a new roof on it. If you got to put a new roof on your home, you got to put a new roof on your home. A tree fell on your house. It rained. You got hit by lightning. Some guy decided to launch his car into the side of your house, and now you have to buy a new roof and a new wall. You know, it's par for the course. It's what you got to do. It's not an easy way out, van life, but it is far more enjoyable. That I can tell you, and far more relaxing. As stressful as it is that this thing won't start today, okay. It's something that can be fixed, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It is foggy. I'm not okay with that. Any old people out there remember that movie, The Fog? That movie scared the bejesus out of me in the worst way. I remember that movie, and it still scares me to this day. An equivalent to that was The Mist, that Stephen King movie where the monsters were in the fog. That was scary too. That was a good movie. We'll talk a lot about movies I like. But for now, I'm going to get back to dieseling. Figuring out my batteries are charged. I don't have any more starting fluid. I got to go get some more starting fluid. My batteries are charged. My air filter's clear. It starts and runs with starting fluid. But I think I'm not level. No, I'm not level. The diesel heater, the diesel in the diesel heater is like that. I'm not level. And when I checked it, it was down about 2 quarts. So I put 2 quarts in it, disconnected the batteries, reconnected the batteries after a couple hours. And now I'm going to go get some more starting fluid now that I've done those 2 things and see where it goes. Thanks for tuning in to the beginning of van life. Let's get this thing going, because eventually I want to get out there and I want to start taking pictures. Looking forward to that part. Thanks for tuning in.